Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. It's another day and we're back on Roger's Trans AM. So motor's coming along good, everything's looking good. He already had this radiator, but he went back and bought some electric fans with the shroud that fit this radiator. So he went ahead and got those. They came in, so he went ahead and got them put on and set the radiator down in there, see what it looked like. So it's looking good. And we got a bunch more parts. Subframe connectors came in, rear gears came in, everything for the fuel system, I believe, came in. And then our Holley engine computer came in. So we've got a table full of parts over here and full day's work ahead of us. So I'm gonna go ahead, and Roger's not here right now. He must be off of breakfast or something, I don't know. I showed up, he wasn't here, but I'm gonna go ahead and start getting my bearings together and kind of going through and see what I wanna do and how I wanna do it. And then we'll get started on it. All right, so I guess this is kind of the biggest part of this whole deal, but we've got our Holley terminator harness. Now, because we went with the 700R4, we don't need the Terminator Max. We don't need any kind of transmission controller. We only need the engine, so. Didn't seem like that wanted to plug in, but we got it. Okay, so that's cylinder 2. And duck hunters are bad shots. So, I don't know if you guys can hear that on the camera, but there's a channel or swamp, whatever, right over here, and they duck hunt out there every morning. And I tell you what, about 6 people shoot at the same duck every time, and I don't think any of them hit it. Okay, you guys may be wondering why I'm just plugging the injectors in first. Me and Roger were just talking about where we're going to mount the computer, and we're going to leave it out here under the hood where it's accessible. And we thought about putting it right here because for right now he's not going to have any heat or AC, but eventually he wants to put in like a vintage air or classic car air or something like that. And it should only have like 4 hoses to come here, so we should have leeway here where we can put it. So we're going to do that, but we want to get the whole harness routed first to make sure that we're not going to have like 4 foot of extra, hose that's got to be, or wiring that's got to be tied up somewhere. So we're just running the harnesses, and once we get them in there and run, then we can decide what we want to do. So all these right here are going to be our connectors that go to the computer. So we kind of laid it out where those sit over there where we want the computer. Then this is I'll have to look at the instructions, I'm not sure what some of them are.
This is a knock sensor.
Throttle position sensor, that's this one. You find the knock sensor one? Alright, so I'll plug into there. Injectors, does it say which ones? Because there's gonna be, oh, injectors? That's that harness that we just, there you go. We're just kind of loosely putting this stuff in here to get it hooked up for right now, and then once we get it all hooked up, okay, that's going to be oil pressure, that's right there, and cam sensors right next to it, so those two are going to go right there. Glad we left all this room so it was easy to get back here.
Good thing we were right below those motor supports.
That's plugged in. Okay, now, this one is ignition odd. This one is ignition even. So our odd side is going to be, so this is going to plug in right there. And this one will come and plug in over here. Okay.
See, this is O2 sensor.
That's for the O2 sensor?
Ain't it?
Wide band O2, yes.
So it goes over there.
It's gonna come down, well, it's gonna come down here, the O2 sensor's gonna come up to it, whatever, but yes, that's for the O2 sensor. These should all be ground. Connect to cylinder head only. Connect to cylinder head only. Yeah, there's like three grounds here.
Where's the map?
Huh?
The map.
And we don't have that yet.
Okay.
And we might not use it because you can get a vacuum reading off of the computer and you don't need the map. But the map is that sensor that I told you we should hold on to that you can put in the intake too.
I got you.
We just gotta get some bolts. Okay, so that's the gist of it. I know you guys couldn't really see much. Once we get things kind of more where they need to be and whatever, I will bring you in and show you closer up. But now, if you guys can see Roger's left hand over there, that's the harness that hooks up to the computer. So now we were talking about putting the computer right there, so we're gonna have to like loop the dang thing and all that to make it to where it sits, or we could bring it over and put it on the top of the passenger fender where the wires will lay out nice, or we'll have to figure that out. I'm gonna tie up the ground and stuff like I said, hook up the last couple deals, and then we'll raise it up and go underneath and put in the O2 sensor. There's a couple wires up here that go to sensors. Gotta hook up the crank sensor, which is underneath. Stuff like that, but I really gotta give it to Holly. I mean, you can't really beat it. That's about as simple as it gets. If you know what the components are, everything's marked and it's just right there. So we're gonna find some bolts. We're gonna get our ground wires hooked up before I forget. And then we will move on to the moving on. All right, it's another day, and to be completely honest, it's another week. It's been about a week since we did anything on this. I started showing you guys that we had the fuel system stuff mostly here, and we had the wiring harness to put in, and we got the wiring harness 98% done. We've got to wire in electric fans, and we've got to hook, I want to say 2 or 3 wires up to the battery. Other than that, wiring harness done. Fuel system, I'll walk through and show you guys all this stuff before this video's out, but fuel system's done, except for 4 fittings. 2 of them are here, 2 of them still haven't made it yet. But anyways, I've been hibernating because it's cold. It seems like utility bills have gotten so high, Mother Nature even turned the heater down. So not a whole lot we can do about that, but we did get some more parts in. We got our new car style harmonic balancer. We've got a couple of the fittings that we were missing, so we can finish hooking up a couple wires, wire in the electric fans, change out our balancer. We still got to shorten the drive shaft. We still got rear gears. We've still got subframe connectors and subframe bushings. And we're 2 fittings shy of trying to start this thing. So maybe we'll try to figure something out to make it to where we can just start it for a minute. Being that it's a inline fuel pump, we may be able to temporarily just run a hose with hose clamps on it because it's going to be suction, not necessarily pressure, other than the return, but we can return it into a dang bucket for now. We'll see what happens. All right, I realize that I'm not filming a whole heck of a lot, and I'm doing more just updates of what I've done than showing you everything I'm doing. This isn't going to be the new format for the channel. It's just we wanted to have a good work day, get a bunch of work done, and we're getting to that point in this build where it seems like everything's beating us up, and we're trying to get it to where we can start it, because once you hear it run or know that it's going to run, kind of rejuvenates you and gets you going again. So I need it, Roger needs it, and we weren't too far off from being able to do it. And it's not 100% done to where it can start, but we've got it rigged up to where it will. So just real quick, got battery cables in it now. We're not gonna put coolant in it right now because we got a plug that's out and we're not gonna run it that long. Battery is hooked up to the starter. We got our starter wires hooked up, and I'm just gonna go through what we did last weekend too that I haven't gone over with you yet. But our fuel system goes in the back of the intake there on the fuel rail. We've got our lines run and our wiring for our fuel pump run all the way down, routed up, over, about. And then back here, because this is a low riding car and there's not much of a lip or a frame rail or anything to mount stuff in, we kind of thought outside the box and made a mount for our fuel pump. And then we've got a Corvette style regulator filter with a return. So we mounted that right up here. Hopefully you guys can see it okay. But we made a bracket, mounted it to the lip on the tank where it's not in the tank or anything like that. It's not tech screwed in, it's bolted. But then we got our pump here and we got our regulated return filter here. Now, all this is permanent. All these fittings are hooked up, the pump, everything, except for this. We've got 2 more fittings that haven't shown up yet. One is to hook the return up to the sending unit. One is to hook the feed up to the sending unit. But being that this is an inline pump, it should have suction and not pressure here, which it should be okay having this line just on here with a hose clamp for today, just to start it. We're not gonna let it run long. It's not gonna have a belt on it, doesn't have coolant in it, so on and so forth. So, fuel system, 95.885% done. And also today, because we gotta put tranny fluid and oil in it to start it so that it doesn't, you know, burn anything up or whatever. In order to put tranny fluid in it and start it, we needed to have a drive shaft in it. Well, with the 700 R4 and all that, drive shaft was too long. So we took the drive shaft and drove like 3.5 hours to the closest place that worked on drive shafts and had it shortened and sat there and no, we didn't. We shortened the drive shaft here in-house like I always do. And it turned out pretty dang good. Measurements are perfect. Wells look pretty good. It's cleaned up. It fits in there, but it's doing good. So the Holly is, Roger's gonna go ahead and let this down, but the Holly is wired in minus the fans, which we don't really need just to fire it up for a minute. All our power is at the battery. We don't have the positive cable hooked up yet because we're still working, but all the power is at the battery, just needs to be hooked up. All the other wires are hooked up. Fuel pump's hooked up. Everything's hooked up. We don't have all the wires like cleaned up and routed and looking pretty yet, because if there's any reason we have to deal with anything, we don't want to have to go back and cut all the zip ties and pull everything back apart and all that to fix it and so on and so forth. So the Bill's hot rod company bracket, whatever that we got, we got the car dampener pulley like it said we needed. Still didn't line up, so we went and got some longer bolts. We got some spacers. It's not quite done yet. This isn't even mounted all the way in there, but whatever. We've got everything we need to finish it. It's gonna turn out okay. We have a belt to put on it. Don't need it right now. We got all our radiator hoses and everything on, but we're putting a fitting in the head back here to run a mechanical temp gauge that he already had in the car, and the stuff that we got so far isn't gonna work. So anyways, that being said, we got to plug the handheld in, and I got to do the setup wizard, and we got to hook up the positive battery cable. And other than that, it might be ready to make noise. So, see what happens. All right, so I had Roger turn the key on just to make sure that the Holly powered up. Well, it didn't. I had 2 positive wires coming out of the harness from inside. I don't remember how I tested it. Oh, I remember. One went to the alternator and one was longer with a eyelet on it, so I knew it went to the starter. Well, the one that went to the alternator must have gone through the alternator and went back to the starter also, or to power, because that's what this is. We had to hook it up to the battery in order for the Holly and the fuse box to power up. So there's 2 sides of the fuse boxes on GMs. They both get separate power. One's always hot, one is off the key. So that's what we had to do. We added this wire, we got it hooked up. Now when Roger goes in there and turns the key on, our Holly will power up. We got all our dummy lights and everything here. And we'll get our power to our wizard. So I'm gonna have Roger go ahead and turn the key on. We'll let this thing kind of self-boot. I'm gonna grab the instructions because it's been a while since I've done one, but we'll go through the setup wizard and get this thing set up. We're gonna have to go back and do some more with this because we're gonna have to set up our inputs for our electric fans and whatnot when we get them wired. But for right now, we just want to hear it run. Initial power up. Roger just reminded me we haven't put oil or transmission fluid in here. So I'm going to go through, set up this wizard. While we're doing that, he's going to put oil and transmission fluid in it. And when we get that to that point where we're about ready to start it, I'll bring you guys back and so you can see what it's going to do. All right, the wizard's all set up. It's doing what the wizard things do. It's got oil in it. It's got enough transmission fluid in it that the tranny's not going to burn up just running it for a minute. Everything should be hooked up. We did the TPS wizard auto set thing. It passed. Went through the whole wizard setup, put in injector numbers and everything else that you have to do. All that worked out great. And we cycled the key 3 or 4 times, and the fuel pump on this thing sounds like it's a Pro Mod. So, good deal. So Roger's gonna turn the key off, turn the key back on, let the fuel pump cycle, and then we're gonna hit it and see if it wants to start. Then turn it on, but don't crank it until I say go ahead. You gotta wait till this boots up. That's getting quieter. That means it's got fuel. That's a lot quieter. You guys should have heard it before. It sounded like somebody was massacring a cat under the car.
Can you do it again, or?
Yeah, do it one more time. Ain't gonna hurt nothing.
You try it?
Go for it. Try to go the key again.
Sound like it hit maybe a little bit one time.
We got all green lights on here. That's got a very good thing. And just after you do it that time, just let it go and I'll show you when to crank it.
Oh, just keep doing that?
No,
Go ahead.
turn it on and just leave it on. Alright, try again.
It's hitting. It hit a little bit, cause it got faster. Sound like it
It
hit.
might be getting oil pressure now. Go ahead and got any fuel
I
in
guess it's got enough of fuel in it.
What?
So I guess it's got enough of fuel in it.
How much fuel you got?
Says it.
Says empty? Oh, it all ran out. Remember the speeding? Alright guys, we're gonna go put some fuel in the car and it might start. I'll be right back. Okay, we got gas in it. Before we put gas in it, we've got a 5-gallon bucket in the back that we've got our return hose run into, because like I said, we don't have the fittings to hook up the return to the tank. I noticed it had gas in it, so I disconnected the line from the fuel rail, and we put it in this barrel and turned the key on about 3 times, and we never got fuel. So I'm gonna make sure we got fuel here to the rail, and then once I get fuel spraying in this jug, then I'll hook this back up and we'll try it again. Go ahead. I don't know why we don't have fuel coming up
They
there.
already shoot.
Only thing I can think of is somehow, what's on that backwards there? We got pressure fuel coming out here.
Okay.
I guess let's raise it up and check it, see if I plumbed it backwards. I don't know how I could, but anything's possible. Alright, we're gonna raise the car back up, double check that we got the fuel pump plumbed in the right direction, and then we'll try again, because we have fuel coming out of the return line, but we don't have fuel coming up to the motor, so. Alright, well, I let Aaron hook the fuel system up, and he wired the filter backwards. So, or plumbed the filter backwards, I guess you would say. So once we put it the right way, so that the feed from the tank was going to the inlet on the regulator, and the return was going out the return instead of vice versa, then we got fuel up here at the fuel rail. So we hooked that back up. So now we're gonna turn it on. We should have some fuel. We might hear something. Go ahead. Don't crank it right away. You gotta wait. When you turn the key on, you gotta wait till this goes to the gauges before you try to start it.
Okay, you think about that?
Oh yeah, it doesn't. We left it off for too long. It doesn't have the gauges on. When it goes to that screen or whatever, then go ahead.
Hit it.
Battery sounds like it's getting low.
And then put the charger on.
Yeah.
There's another battery where I might switch it out.
It's cranking slow. All right, well, now we're gonna put the battery charger on it, give it a little bit of juice, but it sounds like it's trying to do something now. It almost sounds, I don't know. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna get some juice to it, and I'll bring you guys back and we'll try it again. Okay, go ahead. Alright, well, time to go back through everything, find out what's wrong. I don't know that anything's wrong, it might just be taking a while to start, but I'm gonna go back through, check it, make sure things are working, and go from there. So, time to start the troubleshooting process. Okay, so we searched through a bunch of stuff and came down to everything seemed right, but we were like, what if the injectors or the fuel rails are just airlocked or something? Because we had it all apart, we changed O-rings, everything's new, whatever. So we decided, hey, let's try just a little bit of starting fluid, see what happens. And so we're gonna do that now. We're gonna try a little bit of starting fluid, just see what happens. I'm not gonna sit there and hose it, I just wanna see if it starts. So, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, man, I don't hear.
What?
I'll go run back there and listen to it.
I can keep it running
Well,
with the thing. It's just, and it's not because of that.
Okay,
The
good.
throttle body's not set right. So try it.
No, but why, very wise.
Go ahead. All right, well, it runs. What do you think, Roger? You happy?
I'm happy.
You've been wanting to hear it run, it's running. I did get a backfire in the intake. I think it was because I was spraying the fluid in there, but it's running. Roger just told me that the rear tires were spinning while it was running, which means
Same gear.
we let the car down, and as I was letting it down, I said, I hope the tranny's in park. And we didn't really know, so we left the lift up to where the wheels weren't on the ground, just in case. But that could be fighting us because the tranny's trying to turn when it's starting and whatnot. And now I know that it'll start, and I gotta mess with the throttle body. A lot of that's part of the learning that the computer has to do. But either way, the Holley's hooked up, the fuel system's hooked up, and the car started. So once we get it to where it'll run and maybe idle and whatnot, then we can do a little bit more videoing. But for right now, I'm pretty excited. I'm really excited. And I know Roger is too. He just doesn't like to be goofy on video. So as soon as I turn the video off, he's probably gonna do a double backflip and some jumping jacks. But anyways, it starts, it runs. His wife's working over in her workshop over there, and now it smells like exhaust in here real bad. So I don't know that we're gonna start it up again right now, but it does run, and we're happy. So be back in a little bit. All right, you guys can probably tell by the fact that it's all smoky in here that we actually got it to run for a minute, like it ran on its own, idling. And you know, it's burning all the new off. We went through the motor, painted it, headers are new, all that stuff. So, really quick, before we kill Roger's amazing wife, we're just gonna try to see if it'll start on its own. If it does, I'm gonna try to walk you guys to the back really fast so you can hear the exhaust, because I haven't even heard it yet. And then that's probably gonna be it as far as running it for now until we get water in it and get a little further. So, turn the key on. Hit it. Doesn't want to start by itself. Go ahead. Alright guys, now it's idling. Those are the MagnaFlow mufflers that he had on there with the 403. We hooked them back up and I think it sounds pretty dang good. So, you can, don't hit it real hard because it'll kill it. Just barely tap it. There it goes. It's running on its own. We're going to turn it off before it smokes the place out or overheats or one or the other, but there it is. All right, it's another day. We spent the day working on it. I didn't really film much, but got all our coolant hoses on. They're all hooked up. We were able to get our power steering set up right with a hose that goes on and works. Got our alternator on. We finally have a belt on. And I made a power steering reservoir. It's gonna, right now it's got a plug in the bottom because we were testing it. It's gonna go right here. We're gonna make a bracket for it. Obviously that's for the return line. And then this is our hose that goes down to our pump for our reservoir, so that'll hook up. We're gonna make a little bracket that comes over to the inner fender. That'll be that. And we got a decent amount done. This little stuff here and there, but we're just trying to knock some stuff out. So I know this is a different type of video, like, hey, look what we did instead of watch what we're doing, but we made some progress and this old car fired up, and that makes us really happy. So hope you guys enjoyed seeing the progress updates and it actually firing up and running. And if you're not subscribed, please do. Hit the like button, leave me a comment, that's important. And if you like what you see, come back and watch us again. So if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.